Alright guys, welcome back to another Dragon Ball Legends video. Today, we're going to be doing a updated tier list prior to the release of a Legends Festival 2024. We did go ahead and get the kits for the Legends Festival units. It's going to be an LF Vegito Blue and LF Rosé. We'll see where they are on the tier list later tonight when we get to actually use them in game. But with that being said, you guys know we order 1 through 10, have a couple honorable mentions in there. Everything is considered 14 stars with their best teams, best equips, etc. And with that being said, let's just get into it. So to begin, we're going to go ahead and start with the top of the list. And the top of the list, I don't think is a surprise to anybody, but we're going to go ahead and put Ultra Majin Vegeta up here. And we're going to go ahead and also have Ultra Turles up here. Even after a couple of weeks of Ultra Majin Vegeta being in PvP, he is very comparable still to Turles. I do think it's better, but at the same time, to me, the utility of Turles with his comeback, his support, his defense, his healing, all the things that he does is comparable to the offensive, just absolute offensive powerhouse that is Ultra Majin Vegeta. Little microwave going off right there, trying to heat up some food right here. We're trying to prepare. So we are stocked up and ready to go for the Legends Festival summons later tonight. See you guys there if you guys do want to show up. With that being said though, that is why I do think that Turles and MV are still comparable. There is a massive offense gap, obviously, in the favor of MV, but there's also, I feel like, a massive defense gap in the favor of Turles. And I would also give Turles the utility. But I think right now his MV's just offense is just so freaking strong, and it's because there's really no red to keep him in check. Gotenks can't really do it. He's not a bad option to do it, but Gotenks can't really keep MV in check by himself, especially when he works with him, right? So that's kind of where that issue comes in. And that's why I think MV is still 1 and Turles is right behind him, but they're both probably tied. Now, moving on to number 3 here, might be a little controversial, but I'm going to go ahead and say Gotenks is currently number 3. I think Gotenks is very good. Like, he doesn't keep MV in check by himself, but he does do a very good job of it. He does do very ridiculous damage. I've seen him one-shot freaking Turles. I've seen him do nuclear damage to Turles when he has his neutral up. And he overall is just very annoying. His giving cut pen support and just support in general is just so nice that he does provide that as well. His card draw is great. He's getting a buff with Legends Festival because we have Vegito Blue being arranged. That obviously isn't really factoring into this too much, but I mean, it's something to keep in mind that he is going to be synergizing with the new unit, who looks like the best unit in the game, mind you. Like, Vegito Blue looks freaking insane. But I do think Gotenks, even in the current meta stance, I would say he is number 3. He has a couple bit of lack of utility in defense. However, I feel like he makes up for it with his support and damage potential. He is very slippery, very annoying, very high damage cap. But that's why I do think he has still the argument on 3, and he's pretty good. Now, at number 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to say is... we'll hold back on 6. 6 we'll hold back on. But number 4 and 5, we're going to say are tied. And that is going to be our GOAT, Mr. Triku, and our other GOAT, not really for me though, but Mr. Super Vegito, who is right here. So the reason I say these guys are tied is because I feel like Vegito right now in the current meta, him being blue, 1, gives him access to a lot of great Zenkai buffers. Obviously, he has access to the Buu duo, he has access to Nameku, he has access to MV. And on the setups where you're running him, you're going to be Zenkai buffing Turles as well with a couple of those, and it's like him and Turles getting Zenkai buffed. Very, very powerful combo. SV's Rush is a very also powerful tool right now in the current meta. With a lot of the matches going to timer, a lot of the matches being very long, that guaranteed rush damage makes a very big difference in the outcome of the fight, and him getting his health back when he transforms. Turles keeping him safe, other units you're running with him keeping him safe. He has a lot of value because of that guaranteed rush damage, as well as just his overall kit in general is very good. But it's mainly that guaranteed rush damage that makes a very big difference when every single match is going to timer. Every single team has endurance, they have revival, comeback, all these things, right? And his rush just gets rid of it. And yeah, it's like, it's not the best case, like it's not killing something, but I would rather get rid of it right now than not, because the matches are just so long. So that's where that value really comes in for him, is having his guaranteed rush. And that's why I would say he's at 5. The reason I say he's tied with Triku is a very good unit, but he needs a unit to die to really get going. That's one thing. His ulti buff isn't bad, but again, there is ways around it to where it's not as impactful. And while Triku is very good, I have still been able to just completely demolish him with MV. Like, I'll do 2 cards with MV, pop ult, he's gone. Gotenks can completely melt through him, Turles can completely melt through him. So it's like, he's a very good unit. He has some good potential. He has Zenkai buff access. He has team access. But I don't think it's enough to justify him above Gotenks. I think the Gotenks just provides a little more. If Gotenks had like access to the same Zenkai buffs and stuff, it would be a very clear gap between him and Triku, I feel. But because of how it currently stands, I do think Gotenks is a little bit better than these guys. But these guys are also tied with each other, and I think that's going to round out our top 5 here. Now, moving on to number 6, we are going to go ahead and do a 6, 7, and 8 together. And 6, 7, and 8 is going to be somebody who I think is very underrated right now by a lot of people. It's going to be Ultra Super Saiyan for Gogeta. As somebody who is actively using him, so obviously because I'm a Gogeta fan as well as we have him 14 stars, he is still very, very competent in the current meta. MV definitely hurts him a little bit, and Triku, especially if you're running into Triku, MV, Turles, that team is very difficult to get through when you're running G4. But G4 at LMS, still just the absolute demon that he is, right? His gauge is still very powerful in the current meta. You have to really play around the snipe from MV, and that's like the main thing that makes it really hard to use G4 right now. But it's not enough to really shut him out of the meta completely. He is still very good. He has access to some great teams. He has access to great synergies. So I do think people are underrating him a lot. He is still top 6. He could very easily jump higher. It's just a matter of him getting a really good character to pair with. Because Turles really hurt him a lot, and then MV came out. So now it's like, yeah, you could run Gogeta with Gotenks, but Gotenks isn't really enough by himself. But that's just kind of where we are at with the G4. If he gets access to a really powerful red that just shuts MV down, that would make a big difference. A little interruption right there. For 7 and 8, we're going to be looking at Mr. Omega Shenron and Mr. Evil Boo here. Let's see if we can go ahead and find them. They're right there. The reason these guys are here is just simply because of their synergy. This guy on Majin Buu Saga just has immense synergy. He has great synergy with Majin Vegeta. He's a great counter to Majin Vegeta. He's a great counter to Turles. So in all of those regards, Evil Boo has earned his spot. And then Omega Shenron, same thing. He's a decent counter for Turles. He has his ultimate to bait out Triku stuff. And then he has obviously the comeback mechanic and all that stuff to counter the rushes and other things to give you protection. However, it doesn't really help you against Majin Vegeta because Majin Vegeta just goes ahead and pops his lock-in and then you kind of get screwed over. But those guys have some pretty good spot in the meta right now, so they are still going to hold that down. But they're nothing too crazy. None of these guys after top 5 are that crazy. Let's go ahead and finish out the list. We're going to go put 9 and 10 together. And for 9 and 10, what we're going to go ahead and do here is going to be Mr. Ultimate Gohan, if I can find him. So we are seeing a massive drop-off, obviously, for Ultimate Gohan. He really cannot do anything in the current meta. He gets completely wrecked by MV and Triku. He gets wrecked by freaking... This guy's defense just post-boost has not held up very well. His damage, situationally, depending on the team you run, can still be very good. But most of the time, he ends up just being a liability on the team and not providing enough. Especially if you're trying to run him on a team with, like, this guy. If you're trying to run him like Turles and Gotenks, it's like, the team is very tanky, but all the defensive abilities and everything like that just messes his damage output up very well. And it's just something that hurts a lot. The 10th spot here, honestly, it can go to a lot of units. After the 9, it really just starts spreading out. But we are going to go ahead and give it to Mr. Shin just because he counters Majin Vegeta very well, right? He provides support. He's a Majin Buu Saga. His ceiling is very useful. He has type neutral against Turles, so it's not the biggest deal. And he has some very good defensive equips to help him out. Obviously, he's also going to scale pretty well with now Vegito Blue coming out, who's also God Key as well as Rose. So you get that little trifecta of red, green, yellow on there. And that's going to work pretty well with the Shin out there as well. So we'll see how that ages out later tonight. But that's why that Shin is going to hold down that 10th spot, just because he's a really good counter. And he's a really good counter pick as well as he's providing that support. Now, moving on to honorable mentions, there is a couple units here that I think don't get the credit that they deserve. One of them is going to be the one and only Mr. Red Broly. Red Broly, ever since MV has come out, I've been using him a bit. He is actually pretty solid of an option right now in the meta. He's not bad at all. So if you guys have him decently start up, itemized and all that stuff, I would recommend using him. He's actually not that bad of a pick right now. He's not the greatest still, right? Turles still exists, but he does have a good amount of time where he can cook. Another one is going to be Super 17. As you guys can see the pattern, red units, Ultra MV. That just is what it is. That's just how it's going to be. Those are both really good options there. Then the other one that is a little bit on the lower end for me personally, but they're still worth mentioning. We do have the Bard Crew Plat, and I do think they have a pretty solid spot. You could even argue them in here, but I think they just barely don't have enough to push that little threshold to get into the top 10. But they are still a very, very good unit, and I would say they can make it the bottom of the top 10 there. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it for my honorable mentions. I mean, there's a couple other units you could argue, such as like Golden Frieza. You could argue Go Piccolo, Ultra Gohan, Baby, Buduo. But I feel like the thing with all those units is they're like really like second, third options on their team, and I wouldn't even bother trying to consider them. Whereas like these guys, it's like if you're trying to run them, they're gonna be like the core. But if you're running Buduo, it's like you're just running them to fill a slot. If you maybe just don't have like a high source Super Vegeta or something like that. So that's why I don't really feel like even it's worth mentioning them for honorable mentions. But this is what I feel like the current meta is going into Legends Festival. After these units, I mean, there's a couple of units, like I said, the ones I listed earlier that you could use. We are seeing the rise of the DB Daima tag right here with the Daima Goku and Glorio. But they're both very, very mediocre right now. And you do also need to get a 14-star Glorio for the HP. So that's kind of where we are at with that right now. Hopefully Daima gets some good stuff later on. But that is the current standing. This is the full list. And if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later tonight for the summons. This is boy Aizen, signing out.